Hey guys, Bolt here with SP Studios. So, it's been fun. I've recorded several I'm almost 2 months ahead of schedule, but I'm falling behind due to burnout. And then recently things haven't been doing good for me. Got a giant bruise going right here. And Mr. Foot here, trying to get it up. This one right here, this side, I think I sprung it, broke it or something, because basically I was messing around at work and my foot went sideways and landed on the ankle, and I can apply pressure to it, but it cannot twist in any form. It can bend back and forth, but that is it. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit slower than I want to. If you guys go over to Bolt Entertainment, you'll know that we're doing I'm trying to get to Ruin. This kind of put me up in a spot. But before Ruin runs out of fame, I wanted to get out basically a summary and then go over some theories I have. Because I've already seen it all, I just haven't played it all. People have already broke through the game. There are, it's a lot. So I'll let you guys know this now. Security Breach day one was horrific. Ruin, actually, for the most part, is working fine. It's just I think there's only 2-3 problems recently I've seen people do. Is we've introduced to the ladder mechanic, and sometimes when you're using the ladder, it makes you fall all the way down. Luckily, there's no fall damage. And then when you're using the Vanny security mask, if you go into a blockade that you're going through and you have the ability to remove the mask, it kind of glitches out and reposts you further along or before. So it's a little wonky, but it hasn't affected much of people's playthroughs. And then, of course, the last one is that one of the secrets that I'll be going over for the theory in the summary. Apparently there will be a patch coming out here in the next few days, but it was released wrongly. And it cannot be done unless you do it in a particular manner. Okay, so anyways, so you're playing as this girl, Cassie, and I'll be kind of all over the place. So Cassie, her father was a fast technician, and he worked there, had his favorite was Bonnie, and her favorite was Roxy. Apparently Roxy does have memories and a programming of Cassie's birthday and all that. This could have been something that her dad decided to implant since he knew he had a fondness of her. That's just a theory, but being a technician, you could do something like that and make it to where if this girl is around you, you be extremely nice to her. Because Roxy is a very competitive person, so it's weird to all of a sudden see her have this soft side. Sorry, my hair's not the greatest right now. Like I said, I have no way to get to places right now. So it's very all over the place, and it does miss a few things. From what we've seen was that through some cutouts you see in the mask in the Roxy Raceway Salon, is that you see that Roxy helped give Cassie a makeover, and it looks like she was crying, and then Gregory met her and made her feel comfort, but she was back to being sad when Gregory looked to be going missing. So what I think is that in one of the Roxy's dialogues to Cassie, at the very end of the game-ish, she says, like, she remembers her birthday and says, "Hey, your friends will come this time," which means what probably made her sad before Gregory came along was that her friends were supposed to come to her party, didn't show up, so Roxy tried to make her feel better, but ultimately Gregory was the person to alleviate that. So that probably explains that cutout. So there's a friendship between Gregory and Cassie on that situation. Cassie kind of sounds, for John, Daco, and Matt Pat had mentioned this, but Cassie is like a fusion of Cassidy, who's Golden Freddy, and Charlie, the puppet. And I don't think, there's a few theories you can say about her, but I believe this is just some girl that just happened to have similar names to them. She's coming off, in the beginning of the game, she's coming to the Pizzaplex, which has been abandoned for most likely a few years, because she says in one of her first dialogues that, "Why would Gregory call me to this old place?" And then also that Gregory also has a fondness of calling her, and it's weird. My boy on his first date stood her up. But it's weird if you play through the whole game. It's weird that Cassie in Gregory versus the first game, the main game, and the cutouts, that they sounded the same and they look the same, even though this is years in the future. So it's weird. So, and it also, there's no way that the mold and all the other stuff can build up as much if it weren't for some time. It had to be at least a few years. It had to be at least 2 or more. So it's weird to see Gregory and Cassie not age much. We are not pulling a Goten and Trunks from Dragon Ball Super. No, you cannot tell me any different. So anyways, so there's a friendship there. She's coming here to try to figure out what's happening with Gregory. She goes around and finds a flashlight from a staff bot. These staff bots around the location seem to have been, as a collective, took a whole EMP to them, and they just stuck where they were what they were doing. So whatever job they were doing before if you go look at there are newspapers where Cassie enters, and it says that Freddy Fazbear's was damaged due to an earthquake, but this was most likely the sinkhole falling in from the main game. And it was kind of just a cover-up of, it wasn't us that made this happen. They also seemed like they were going to attempt to bring back the location. They have a banner in the very main lobby where they say, "Sorry about the mess, we'll be coming back soon," which means that I believe Fazbear Entertainment had plans to reopen Pizzaplex, but they probably seen too much damage, and all the stuff was probably too much money for them to reopen this major of a location with so many repairs, so many damages, so much trash and rubble. Not to mention they would have to have the whole place disinfected and critter, because there's cockroaches and flies and stuff, so you have to get rid of that stuff to be properly reopened, because a health department has to go through this whole thing to health inspect it to be open for public again because it was condemned. So anyways, so she goes in, gets a flashlight, goes through. I think we go into where the elevators are to the atrium, and you find a walkie that has Gregory repeating out after it. Straight up, you gotta know that this is not Gregory on this walkie-talkie, unless one of the theories that a lot of theorists have is that Gregory's the crying child, aka Five Nights at Freddy's 4 kid that is Michael's brother and William Afton's youngest child and second son. And he's just a robot. And if you gotta read the books. I'm gonna straight up say this now. You need Finance and Freddy to understand Finance and Freddy's Security Breach ruin. You have to go read the Fazbear books. I mean, like, there's a lot of callbacks to almost all 3 books. Like the trilogy of the Silver Eyes, Twisted Ones, and Fourth Closet, the Goosebumps franchise that is not Tales of the Pizzaplex is the other one that's like more modern books, and you need to know those to understand things at the Pizzaplex and kind of see what they're calling back to. And really, also the main ending, you need the freaking books of the Tales of the Pizzaplex to understand the ending. But I think it is the Fazbear Frights books, which are basically Goosebumps for Five Nights at Freddy's. This is needed because there are some small callbacks to it. Not huge story-based ones, but like there is, I believe there's a corkscrew or something like that. You can find in the daycare, I think both in the main game and in this, and it calls back to something from the Fazbear Fright series. Anyways, let's get back to it. So, what I was bringing the books up for is because the trilogy of books mentions that Henry, the co-founder of Fazbear Entertainment, the partner to William, after the purple guy, has lost their daughter to William Afton and try to make a robot replica that would basically... Well, there's several robot replicas, but basically every stage of the life, like toddler, child, preteen, teen, young adult, and older adult, and more mature adult. He made a robot for every single one, and every single time one of them aged up, it would have shut down the previous one and transferred the memory to the next one. And basically, everyone thinks that Gregory is that for this Finance Freddy's world, because basically the books are several different timelines, but thanks to Finance Freddy's world, it seems that all these worlds can connect and can push each other in 2 different directions. So it's very possible that there is a robot child. Who it is, it could be very much be Gregory, and that would explain a lot of stuff, but it still would leave questions. Anyways, what I'm bringing this up for is about the robot child, because when you pick up the walkie-talkie, his voice is like doubled over. Like, you can see that he can't finish one sentence before he says something else. Like, I think he says SOS over, is someone there, help me? He says them both at the same time, which means this is most likely if he is a robot child, it's his vocal cords messing up, or this is something else that's another AI or robotic that's trying to take over. And basically he's got trapped by something in the sinkhole by Roxy Racers. You have to make your way there. So basically you got to make your way from each single place from the previous main game and find your way back to the sinkhole. So you're basically going to get in the elevator, go up there. I think you find your way into the kitchen section where there would be the garbage compressor that Chica would fall in. You'd be over that way. You would find that water bird that dipped in one of the trailers. Everyone was really fascinated with it. And it's just basically a side tracker so that Chica, a ruined Chica, would come in and jump scare you. You can go back, see my first gameplay and see that. And basically you're just wandering around. That Chica, by the way, due to the garbage and all that she's consumed, it's mucked up her system so bad that her systems can't handle it, so she shuts down half the time. Next would be running into Monty. We basically have to try to enter the sewer system to try to get to other places because we're met with dead ends all around because of the collapse. And you meet due to the previous parts, basically no matter what in the main game, here's the problem is there's so many different endings, so many different ways to go about it that what you did in the main game is questionable. We know that for sure that Gregory got the Mr. Hippo Magnet because you find the open gift in the Glamrock Gifts section. But after that, you gotta wonder what else can you tell. So, due to the Glamrock animatronics being the state they are, like Chica without her beak, Monty without his lower half, and Roxy without her eyes, this easily has to tell you that Freddy was fully upgraded. So, most parts that didn't have him at all upgraded, which means the only real big ones that you can say that would make sense is the fire escape ending, which is VIP basically, where you get all the golden animatronic plushes. Then you would also have the Afton ending with Burn Trap, or the what is it called? The Vanny ending, where you have to disassemble Vanny or you free Vanny through Princess Quest. Those are the only ones I remember Freddy having either almost fully upgraded or fully upgraded. So for right now, we know for sure that the animatronics gave Freddy parts. Anyways, we go into Monty Golf. We run into a staff bot that has the previous Vanny mask from Help Wanted, where we first learn of the ideals and concept of Vanny, where basically Glitch Trap is able to hack into someone's mind and kind of make them a follower and kind of tell them what their actions are going to be. So she makes a mask to fully communicate with Glitch Trap. And this is the one we see in this game, which is weird because in a later part, we go to the daycare theater, and on the screen, we could see a previous, security footage of, Gregory running away from Vanny, but Cassie calls out that Vanny is currently wearing the mask that is the security mask, which kind of is weird because they're different in design. The one that Vanny wears is kind of like a cloth overall, where the first Vanny mask looks like it's supposed to be just like one of those string masks. So it's a little weird for her to call it the same mask. So I think this has to call back to that this is either it has to be one of those. Actually, it has to remove the VIP/fire ending because there's no way they could have gotten the Vanny mask if the place went down in flames. So now it's just down to the Princess Quest, the Disassemble Vanny, and the Burn Trap ending. Another Easter egg, though, that is kind of questionable is that you can go down a pair of stairs. Normally there'd be a Glam Endo crawling around, but when you go all the way to the bottom of the stairs, before you leave the landing, you can kind of peer over into a broken wall, and you can see the blob, which is like the creation, like multi-animatronics melted to one body, and it's kind of searching that area. And when you go down the stairs, it basically gets scared. You jump scare an animatronic for once, and it hits the walls to escape. And I believe the blob, no matter what, should have been canon because in the Glamrock, the Pizzaplex, Tales of the Pizzaplex books, And the notes from the main game mentions that employees have heard the metal going around the vents and other areas. So basically, they heard the blob moving around the building. So blob, no matter what ending it would have been, the blob existed. And I believe if you want to kind of figure out where this idea for the blob came from, is in the fourth closet of the trilogy, Silver Eye trilogy books, where it explains that basically Afton was trying to become one with the original animatronics, so he took all the main animatronics, put all their parts together, so all 4 souls were together. Actually, no, all 5 souls. I believe they threw Golden Freddy into that. And Springtrap was going to be everlasting with all these victims to kind of... I'm trying to think. It basically makes him eternal life and also have kind of a thumb over his victims again. Which, not gonna lie, in most contexts, that's wrong and it doesn't go good for a villain that wants to do that. But anyways, I believe that's supposed to be a good concept of just like, hey, I don't think William wanted this, but I believe that due to the ending from Five Nights at Freddy's 6, where it was like every soul was melted together. So I believe Henry sadly failed, and all the animatronics were melted together. So Scrap Baby, the Molten Freddy, and Lefty were all together, and basically they've been going around collecting parts. So most likely the souls off of those other parts were also put together, and it's weird to explain how souls work in Five Nights at Freddy's because souls do exist. The children that were murdered do have some like control, but in like the Fazbear Frights, they explain that there is a new energy source that is kind of like the plasma of the soul. It's called Remnant, which is basically a murky silver liquid, which is basically the left emotions of a soul, like tragedy, anger, loss. A lot of negative emotions are in this slime, so it's not really the person controlling or doing whatever it is, it's their emotions carrying on. Like, for example, there is the animatronic that was made for the fans for, I think, I'm trying to remember what its name was. I'm trying to remember the dog animatronic that was fan-made for the first game. But there was a dog that was made as a Easter egg, and they made Fetch. And it was kind of like a, hey, I know everyone wanted a dog animatronic, so here we go. So anyways, so we have him doing most of the pulling. It's like mostly it's the emotion that's carrying out what they're doing. So it becomes stronger. They take all this energy. And then at the end of the Afton ending, the fourth closet's ideal of bringing the William Afton soul into the pile to make it a overall... Actually, the Fazbear Fright books ended with that. They made the... Oh, what is it called? It was supposed to be like an innard replica, but they ended up melting down and trying to destroy everything. But William Afton's soul was a part of it, so because you brought him all this energy and all this power, he formed a giant rabbit animatronic that stood freaking tall, and everyone believes if the burn trap has any kind of canonism, is that this is what's going to happen, is that he's going to come back as a huge entity. Which, a theory of mine is that we have multiple DLC that will actually, if they wanted to make money, they can make separate endings canon, but it's up to you which one you prefer. Because the Princess Quest and the Burn Trap ending are the biggest ones a lot of people want to be true. So think about it as just like, you know, you have every character having their kind of happy ending for Ruin, and then you have a separate one where, you know, Freddy and Gregory think they're done, but them and probably Cassie do have to come back and try to finish off Burn Trap, now entangled with the Molten Freddy groups. But anyways, so we're running back and before all these other things. You can find AR presents, which explains certain parts of how Cassie feels about Fazbear Entertainment as a whole. Like, I think I mentioned that her father was a Fazbear technician. His favorite was Bonnie, hers is Vanny. You get that through merch. I believe. I'm trying to think. You also have her talking about how the AR pertains to her, like it hurts for her to look at it. Like certain objects are just hard to look at, or it's painful to look at, she says. There's also like lunch boxes, which are collectibles that her father used to collect, and it mentions, I think the Chica one is the one that mentions that the father collected them. I know that a few others were, I'm trying to remember what the other stuff is. I know like there's a few of the plushies that explain, like there's a golden circus baby plush that apparently was discontinued. The Glam Rock Bonnie explains that even though Cassie asked her father what happened to Bonnie, he never mentioned it, so I believe he knew what happened to Bonnie, but didn't want her to feel scared like Find This Freddy's 4 child, and didn't want to go around the animatronics. And then there's the Golden Freddy, which is kind of calls back to the statue in the lobby. Trying to think all of them. I'm trying to think all of the stuff. Then we get the real gifts, which are basically just Gregory made comics based on his experience on the main game, and he made several, like, either these are multiple endings are becoming canon, and these are just how they are pertained to the actual timeline, or every time he made a comic, it would make that story false. And the comics we see are page 1 and 2. Well, actually, I can probably do this while I'm on camera. I know page 1 and 2 are supposed to be based on the bad ending of basically where you just leave. You can see the page 1 is him running away from the Pizzaplex, and page 2 is where Vanny finds him in his cardboard box, and there's still missing children happening. I know another one is the disassemble Vanny. So disassemble Vanny was most likely a lie. Let's see here. So there's two. Okay. So I'm trying to find it. So there's the burn trap in the blob. The way before the blob grabs up Burn Trap, that's a comic strip. You have Vanny getting disassembled. You have Gregory and Freddy getting away in the van. But then there's another page where Gregory has to power him up through the van's battery. There's also the fire ending where Freddy's holding onto the plushie before he thinks, I can burn everything down. And then there's another one that pertains to the fire escape ending where Gregory goes to the rooftop to try to go to the fire escape, but Fanny's there waiting, and it's like the, hey, I'm the villain kind of look. and that's it. So there's those pages. So I believe, I think that's it for. Hold on. Security breach ending. No, that's not what I wanted. I hate because I have a problem where my search engine wants to go to Yahoo instead of what I want it on Google, but it doesn't allow that apparently. I keep setting it to that. So it looks like the Princess Quest one is the only one who didn't get a comic. So that's cool. All right. So anyways, going through place to place, we have Roxy who's trying to grab what she thinks is Gregory, but when she hears that it's Cassie's voice, she lets go and kind of corrects herself. Monty kind of just, I'm gonna get you, and then becomes a water monster and dies to a neon Glam Rock Bonnie sign. There's Glam Rock Chica who's just eating trash for most of it. Like, she'll come after you, but like, she's not really that dangerous. Most of the other animatronics aren't that dangerous. We have Moon and Sun who's just fighting over who to kind of guard. Sun wants to protect people, but Moon wants to take over and do what he thinks is justice. But then Sun says, go ahead and try to merge us by using the Faz wrench we find and basically reboot them to where it may have been how they originally were made to be, and have them have their personalities clash and make Eclipse, which is basically one side is Sun, one side is Moon, and it's supposed to be a balance of emotions. So there's that. Trying to remember all the stuff you can do. There's a few like little Easter eggs, like you can run into. There's the Gigamonty light show in Monty Golf, where I think on the catwalks you can teleport down there and go through a virtual reality door, and it shows you that. I'm trying to remember what it was. And it shows you a pile of Monty merch. And it even has Monty's legs. Which, another thing I'll mention later, we might come back to. So yeah, there's the DJ Music Man prototypes of like the clanging guys. They've kind of been messed with by other people to make them look certain ways, like Bonnie ears, like a punk rock look, a Monty look. One's just got no faceplate. One's melted. We sadly don't get to see the DJ. We don't go to the DJ dance floor. Boom, boom. That would have been a very scary thing. We run into what is presumably Glitch Trap, but later down the line we learn that this is a new program made by Gregory and most likely Vanessa, known as the Nexus program, where it's basically supposed to keep people who's wondering and trying to uncover what happened there and trying to mess with what happened. So they wanted to have him on the guard, and he kind of basically just calls the animatronics to you to try to get rid of you. So I think that's most of them. The last two things you got, that's very notable. Well, actually, three things that are notable. There is mini games. You can play a second version of the Monty golf courses, which give you another 9 holes. Right now, we don't know anything about them. that may be a secret. There is in the bakery, you can run across what was originally able to be played, but now it's playable because it gives you not an achievement, but it gives you a prize, is playing the Chica... I'm trying to remember what it is. Basically, it's one of those, like, invader kind of like games, and you're supposed to shoot down everything that comes your way. There's a few bosses, and when you beat it, you get Chica's beak. Which, going back to Monty's leg on that pile, we believe that we are able to reboot Roxy and Eclipse, and being able to repair Chica, maybe if we were able to get Monty's legs, we can repair all of them and have a separate ending. This may be something that was originally planned but didn't fit the narrative, or they didn't have enough time. It would have been cool to see. The second thing is that basically if you go on your cameras, there are 4 in the whole game. I know there's 1 on the crosswalks, 1 in the bowling alley, 1 in the very first Monty golf area, and I think there's 1 in the bakery, if I can't remember. But basically, if you zoom out, you can find a secret camera that has a line in it that if you go to it, it opens a door and it has question marks on it. This is supposed to be basically, if you go on your camera map as a whole, you'll see that basically those secret cameras are located by the sinkhole, and they're kind of located similar to each other, and it's supposed to be basically unlocking a certain area in the sinkhole that if you get all 4, you're able to enter it. Speaking of which, we're going to continue going on to the ending, and the secret ending using those doors. Actually, there's a third ending that doesn't make sense, but it's kind of like a, hey, this is the true ending, or this is a joke. So basically, when you finally have shut down everything, been able to beat all the robots, been able to get down and free Gregory, you're able to open the door, but guess what? And you're able to turn off Nexus, the glitch trap wannabe, and it's got concrete. There's 2 problems with what's happening here. So you're freeing Gregory, but there's a concrete wall blocking you, and apparently in the Roxy runaway section, Gregory was in sight of Roxy and was able to lure her away. I'm sorry, what? So not only did he somehow get out of the sinkhole to lure away Roxy and know where you were and have access to cameras and other audio stuff, but now he's stuck behind a wall of concrete. That was definitely a no-no. But once you throw a forklift at it, you go in and, oh yeah, it's not Gregory, it's the Mimic. What the heck's a Mimic? If you guys don't go on MatPat or Daco or a few other people who read up on the comics and do theories based on the books, they mention basically the Mimic is yet another Henry design. So in the Silver Eyes trilogy books, Henry was killed by his own endoskeleton that was made to kill himself. Basically, when he lost his wife and his son to the descending madness he was going into and the loss of his daughter, and he created that robot child, he made an endoskeleton because he thought he was in the wrong. He had nowhere else to go, so he made an endoskeleton with a blade that killed him. And I believe in the Finance Freeze world, we get that in Mad Endo. Well, anyways, this is the Tales of the Pizzaplex replica of that Endo. And basically, they explain it as such as just another man loses his son. Well, actually, no, he doesn't have time for his son. And he creates this endoskeleton to replicate and learn off of his son and keep him entertained as he works. Well, one day, his son, I think, gets ran over in a car incident, and he's left with this robot who has a almost perfect replica of his son's personality, and actually thinks that he's the guy's son. So he's over here, still doing what he was supposed to be programmed to do. but the guy takes his anger on the loss of his son against that robot, which if you guys watch Terminator, you don't do. You basically teach this AI who's learning off other people's things that I'm not okay, and I'm supposed to put violence towards things that are also humanoid that aren't exactly like me. So basically, if it comes in contact with anything, it rips everything off you and then kills you. And it's known as a Mimic 1 program. Well, this was designed. This was actually, the guy was a employee of Fazbear Entertainment, and Fazbear Entertainment learned of it, wanted to take it for their property, learn off of it, and be able to profit off of it. But here's the problem: every time they sent employees down to deal with it, most of the employees died. Eventually, they did get their hands on it. They replicated the program as Mimic 2. And they made the endoskeletons, and they made the book version of the Pizzaplex ran off Mimic 2. So basically, based on what the Mimic sees in all of the Pizzaplex, off of all of its residents, it does it. And eventually, it does see the bad history of the pizzerias and all that, and actually starts producing such. And what everyone is theorizing is that Glitch Trap is basically a program that the Mimic has created in the history of Springtrap and all that. And basically that's how we're thinking, is that basically the original trilogy the original games were based on this horror story of a mass murderer who killed a bunch of children that were innocent, and he was a very big story of loss, and it's just like a big back and forth. And then we got the newer games, which started going over a recreation of the Afton story, but now it's kind of turning into, it's more on AI, technology, and all of this. And that's what really the Mimic comes from. The Mimic is from the books, and the Mimic we find is basically it learned the behavior of Gregory when he had his time at the Pizzaplex. Or if you're going off someone else's theory, where this is most likely the unfinished adult body of what Gregory was supposed to be, since he's not growing, this might be his adult body, and this Mimic was supposed to be built to be Gregory because he changes his voice. He replicated the young Gregory, but started aging up his voice when you got closer to him. So it is believed that this is either just a Mimic trying to kill you, or this is the adult Gregory human bot. And basically, once you meet him, Roxy intervenes, you're on the run, and there's two endings you can get here. And basically there's the one where you run into the left and ignore Gregory's instructions when he gets in contact with you finally after learning the Mimic is down there. You listen to his instructions, but if you don't listen and go left on one of the turns, you run into a Fredbear cutout. You're putting on the mask, gives you an ending screen of Helpy and Gregory with Vanny against the tree, basically saying, "Hey, the Princess Quest ending was true, and this is how we're explaining it." And then we also go on to the actual ending where you listen to Gregory's instructions, you get into the elevator, and you start trying to get away and try to get back up. But basically, it is like, hey, you released a huge problem on the world. We need to, stop it because it's following you now. So basically, now we have the ending of the thing where Cassie's plummeted down even further than when we fought Burn Trap. So we're going down deep into this. So this means we're finding a new. If we come back as a DLC to be a sequel to Ruin, it'll be a new environment that we have yet to see. Beyond Caverns, beyond the Five Nights at Freddy's 6 Pizza Sim place. Anyways, then we also have if you opened all 4 of those secret doorways, you run into another open door during the runaway scene, and this actually opens another cutscene where you see an elephant, I believe it's supposed to be a duck, and I think a lion or a ram suit worn by the Mimic, and it's basically, what I'm calling back to is during the Five Nights at Freddy's 3 tapes, they mentioned that while the spring lock animatronics were put offline and we're trying to get replacements for the animatronics, we'll give you suits. And I believe these 3 mascot costumes were made as those in-between suits to kind of give us of what they were supposed to be. And I believe if this was a canon event, this would explain that there might have been a Spring Bonnie suit that was actually meant to be just worn and not an animatronic, and the Mimic may have found that and it was just ruined and it made a digital copy of it to make Glitch Trap. Anyways, basically, through those doors you find the replicant, the more advanced version of a scooper, and it basically just demolishes the Mimic. And that's it. And that's really it. How we end it is that Cassie became friends with Gregory after her birthday being a failure. Roxy's is like buddy with Cassie. So now that Gregory's dealt with the Pizzaplex and they believe they're done there, they make a whole bunch of security programs, and Cassie comes to try to free Gregory, which is the Mimic that's calling her in. Takes all the security that Gregory and Vanessa set up, free this horrific being, which is most likely, from what Gregory explains, is that thing's been down there for longer than probably Pizza Sim. So this thing probably existed for a long time. So this was easily maybe a model made by Henry or William. So it might have been a book replica of Henry's death, or actually, that would explain what happened with Henry. Henry said that he remained as well, so instead of burning, he may have just made himself a quicker death with the Mimic to replicate his Five Nights at Freddy's World death and the book trilogy of Silver Eye's death. Anyways, there's a few other things that also need to be mentioned while this whole, hey, is this the Mimic telling you where you're going before this elevator, or is this actually Gregory, and what are you going to do now that you're plummeting to your death? We do have a few other things to mention before my last point, which is basically, from what we believe based on theories, is that there's a lot of illusion disc used in the Pizzaplex, and the security mask can see past those illusion disc, which means this gives you more paths to go, and this is how the gameplay works. That's how Vanessa was able to get around so well. But also, because it's a security mask used by a technician, and that's explaining how they can get around behind everyone's back and all that. But there's another thing that we got to mention before we get off here. Else than the BB World program, you can see in the where the daycare attendant was originally found. You can see the corrupted sun in the ceiling. There's also the scrap baby plushes from the mini games of VR in one of the rooms when you use your mask. The very last thing is when you use your mask, you can go up to a what is known as Pat, the safety wet floor sign bots. You can put your mask on and deactivate them, and if you do that, deactivate all of it, it's supposed to reveal another one in the bowling alley to give you a secret. But right now there's a glitch where you cannot get that unless you're doing it all in one go. You cannot go. There's chapter selects. You cannot do the chapter selects to get this. You have to literally play the game, get all of them in as you're going and get to the bowling alley to get it. And people have just been breaking the code and using like mods to get in there without it. So basically, when you get that last pat deactivate it, it opens up the last like the blocker for that lane. It opens up and reveals a hole in the wall that gets back to a back little area where you can kind of see where the bowling balls would circulate. And there you find another 4 wet floor signs sectioning off a cleaning need, and it's Glamrock Bonnie. Glamrock Bonnie was either dispensed here, but due to what the scene looks like is that this is where Bonnie was trashed. In the notes of the original main game, it sounds like Bonnie left his green room in the Rockstar Row, went to the Montgomery catwalks, and was dealt with from Montgomery there, which we believe is how like the bucket originally was. Is just like that is how where most people think Bonnie was done. But it is also revealed that it looks like I think Dawko said it best, is that it looks like Glamrock Bonnie was grabbed, thrown against the wall because there's a impact in the wall, and it looks like his legs are broken. It looks like Monty's claws were used to rip open his chest and to completely kill off Bonnie, as it was a bowling ball was taken to smash his temple. But it looks like, thanks to these pats, is that it looks like he was connected to the servos of these pats because he glows the same eyes that they do, and it looks like he's connecting and trying to either the pats are trying to warn upon where he is, or that he's trying to signal people of what has happened. And here, this is a proof of concept. Here's you need to worry about Monty, but once you deactivate the 4 pat bots, his eyes shut off and it turns back to their clear red. I've been looking for this all day, but Razbowski, I believe, either made an edit or he actually did it correctly and did what you're supposed to, and the Nexus bot was changed or modded out with like a proper glitch trap model where he has legs and it looks like a Glamrock Bonnie was made into a nightmare animatronic. I believe that's supposed to be Razbowski's mod, I'm going to say. But anyways, this kind of questions a few things of just like, what happened with those notes? How did it say he left, but then he's here in the bowling alley? And also, it's just like, what's with the pats? The other thing that I'll mention real quickly before we're done, because we're almost at an hour, is just like, what is with I'm trying to like, I had it and now it's gone. What is it? Hold on. Okay, sorry, I just remembered. So there's also a little, like, it explains something, but basically in one of the notes from the main game, like one of those duffel bags you find, one of the things is, hey, there's a lot of customers asking what happened to Bonnie. Do we have a legal or proper response to it? And I believe when you guys go to there's the Monty gondolas, I believe the Mimic called them, and it's basically like a roller coaster ride in the air, and basically you're taken through a history trip of how Monty became one of the big bands, and it shows a teen Monty who's kind of rugged, who's on his own, he's making his own little band going, and then he sees the Glamrocks is inspired, and we see a cutout of Glamrock Bonnie, and in the next cutout we see a Glamrock Bonnie leaving the stage, giving Monty his guitar, and then we see Roxy giving his Motorhead haircut, and then him going into his rock style. And then there's another thing on that ride where we see one of the AR blockers, like, hey, you can't use the mask. And it's weird because you gotta wonder, if you disabled that, what would be in the environment that would... Is that like, if you using your mask, would you see what Monty properly did to Bonnie? And then the other question I have for myself is that, like, if you get there's an AR Foxy plush, Cassie says that she liked a log ride, which means that there was a log ride when the place was still open, and you find this area, find it off of the Roxanne Racers. So there's Roxy Racers, the salon, and a Foxy log ride, and it looks like it was shut down properly like the Roxy Raceways. It looks like the only area that was probably the last thing that was allowed in the Roxy Raceway was the salon. So it looks like they were trying to get rid of Foxy as history as well. And basically they were giving him a Western cowboy look. So I believe probably in the early stages of the Pizzaplex is that if they wanted to do another Foxy, they were going to use a Western style and make him a cowboy, which wouldn't go along with the band. The band is all 80s, 90s, and Roxy is more of a backyard racer is kind of her theme, and a Foxy doesn't go well with the rest of them. But anyways, that's kind of my question is, was there supposed to be not a Glamrock Foxy, but a Western Foxy properly becoming an animatronic? Was there one? Is there one we can find in the next DLC or in the Help Wanted 2? We'll have to see. Anyways, we'll actually be getting a connection to Ruin in the Help Wanted 2 because we see one of the Faz Wrench's puzzles on the side of the elevator. I believe that Help Wanted 2 was updated to the new modern technology of this, but I wonder if instead of it being a open-ended game, I wonder if Help Wanted 2 is going to be a proper like employee bring in, like, hey, if you want to work for us, just go through this this testing module where it shows you what we do as an entertainment. Like, hey, this is a Faz Wrench. This is what you do to this device. And then, like, hey, here's our locations that we'll be sending you to. This is what you do properly here. But we do see some connections to that little teaser. But anyways, I will see you guys in the next one. Hopefully my leg will be better so I can push some stuff out, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.